Hey YouTube, welcome to my channel. My name is Allie. This is my first time doing the crochet butterfly locks, and I recorded it because it was looking real cute. Now it's pretty annoying to do, but it was worth it. I would do it again. So hopefully you learn a thing or two in the tutorial. Keep on watching. Bye. So I have my hair about 75% done, and I really love that they are individual and freely moving. I don't know how to braid onto my scalp, so this was a great alternative, so I still get that lock look without having to ask someone else to braid my hair or, you know, struggle myself. So these individual ones are way more flexible and just overall more realistic for me to do myself. And I'm just saving the front edges to show you because, you know, once you see a few of them, they're all the same. It was very difficult to do the back and the sides. I kind of got a little cross-eyed, so it was best to just show you these few in the front. To do my braids, I used raw shea butter and rubber bands. I did not put any cream on my hair. I want it to be as stretched as possible. I did do these braids on an old braid out, sort of an afro. So they're not the straightest, but they're good enough to get through the lock. This is the hair I am using. It's Freetress Braid Butterfly Lock 12-inch. I did use 3 packs. I would say it had about 15 locks per pack, and I ironically did 43 parts. There were about 45 braids total, so luckily I had just enough to finish this style. I was cutting it close, so I made sure I didn't ruin any of the locks because I didn't have that much to spare. And each of the lock has this loop at the top of it. And of course you will need a crochet hook that can open and close. I'm also using edge control as well as an edge brush. And this is really hard to explain, but I will do my best. It's one of those things that may be easier to watch rather than to explain, but you know, I'll try my best. And my braids do have rubber bands at the root because I'm not that good at gripping my hair. So this gives sort of that tight look without, you know, having to braid my hair too tightly. But I do start by scooting the rubber band down because I need space for the dreadlock to fit under my braid on my root. So start by scooting it down. I struggled to squeeze it through that little bit of space when the rubber band was on my root. So put your crochet hook through your root and loop just the top part of that circle underneath your hair braid. Again, I'm sorry, doing my best. So you should have just a circle pushing through under that braid. Take the end of the lock and loop it through that circle so that you can make a sort of knot and secure the lock onto your hair. So you see it's kind of slowly I'm easing that lock through the circle, not too quickly because I notice it sometimes scrunches up the butterfly pattern or just overall may ruin the pattern of the dreadlock by pulling it through too quickly. So definitely take your time so that the lock doesn't get too frizzy or too scrunched up and unravel. And then I just make sure that knot is secure on my root. And I push my rubber band back up because in my opinion it makes the part look a little tighter on my scalp. So you should have your lock on one side and your braid on the other. Now we need to get our braid inside the middle of this butterfly lock. And it's essentially, it's hollow on the inside, but it is a bit like tangled, for lack of better words, because of all the lock butterfly pattern. So I'm only doing about 1 inch, pulling my braid natural hair through at a time. And to hide my braid, I scooted up just a bit on the root to make it look tight. So make sure your crochet hook is open when you put it inside the middle of your butterfly lock. Take the very end of your braid and close the hook, followed by pulling that through. And it doesn't have to be perfectly aligned to where you're only picking up the braid where you left off inside the middle. Sometimes I would go a little higher or a little lower. Just try to make sure your braid isn't completely hanging out, because the whole point is to have this as a protective style, and the best way to do that is to make sure your braid is as firmly in the center as you can get it to be. And I'm not sticking the entire crochet hook in at once and trying to get all my braid in through one pass, because it's a bit tricky with all the loops of the lock. So doing it every few inches helps ensure I kind of keep that quality of the butterfly lock intact. Now when I get to my ends, it does get a little carefree. I kind of don't care that it's fully in, because my ends are a bit curly, so it sort of blends with the lock, and sometimes I just wrap it around the bottom of the lock and it blends in since it's black. Now if I had brown locks or a different color than my natural hair, you would probably be able to see my braid a bit more, so do keep that in mind depending on what color you're doing. Matching your own hair may be best for disguising your braid, but you know, do you. I have that little bit of my end. And you see there's the last little inch of my natural hair, and you can't even tell, so I just kind of wrap it around my dreadlock. And I may call this lock or dread or whatever, but you know what I mean. I kind of use them interchangeably, even though I shouldn't. So here we are again with the next lock. Making sure that loop is at the root of my hair. I pull down the rubber band just to make some space to get this lock underneath my root. Hook the circle onto the crochet hook. Pull just the top of it through, the top of the lock. Then you switch to the bottom of the lock and push it through that circle and pull it tight for your root, so you have that knot secure. And you see it's a bit loose and I don't like how that looks, so I will scoop my rubber band back up to make it look really tight. Then I start at the first 2 inches or so of the lock, take the bottom of my natural hair and pull it through. Then I scoop the butterfly lock up to my root to try to hide that rubber band and braid. That is the downside of using a rubber band. You do have to try to hide it in a sense, because it can be a little bulky, but I didn't have too much problems trying to blend in the rubber band. Make sure that crochet hook is open when you are sticking it into the middle of the lock. Take the end of your hair and close the hook and pull through. I was for a while trying to pull the top of my braid through and not starting at the end, and it would get stuck and it was super bulky and I was like ruining some of the patterns. So definitely would recommend grabbing your natural hair at the bottom each time you crochet it through. And this can get a bit tedious if you don't pull the natural hair completely through the lock, like if it's essentially on the outside or if you get caught in some of the loops of the butterfly, because it's like no point of it being a protective style if it's not in the middle. So there were times that I would have to redo the pull through of the braid just to get it as center as I could. I have only 4 left and 2 braids, so luckily I did not mess this up. This one was a little bit of a struggle getting those crochet humps underneath that loop. Just remember the rubber band aspect is not necessary. I did try to do a braid that was flat onto my scalp with no rubber band, and crocheting it underneath was just way too difficult for me because the lock is so thick. I couldn't get it underneath my braid that well. So having that rubber band that I could push up and down to allow more flexibility of the lock helped me out personally, but it's not necessary. So more power to you if you are able to do this without the rubber bands, because I was struggling. I would definitely recommend, if you don't like where you inserted your crochet hook into the hollow aspect of the lock, to just close the hook and retry. Like close the hook, pull it out and reposition, because if you have it open and you try to pull out, you just essentially snag the lock and create more tangles. So whenever repositioning the crochet hook, make sure it is closed when coming down or open when going up. My ends were a little frizzy, so just to make sure I could actually grab it, I did put a little bit of Shea Butter on that. In the end, I just don't care, wrap that around to hide it. For this style, I did the natural braids one day and the crochet the next. To do my natural braids, it took about 2 hours, and to actually crochet everything, maybe 4 hours. But since it is such a great protective style where none of my hair is showing, it was definitely worth the time that I put into it. Doing the first few as well as the back did take a bit longer because it was harder to see and I had to use a few mirrors. But the front and sides were definitely much easier to complete. And here we are, the finished look. Again, total I have 43 locks. Now I gotta lay down these baby hairs, you already know. I'm not that good at slaying the baby hairs, but you know I'm trying. And I really love how versatile these are. I can put them half up, half down. I can do a low ponytail, and I can move them side to side, whereas if they were crocheted the normal way, for lack of better words, with the scalp pattern, it would look a little more bulky in my opinion, because I don't know how to grip my hair. It would look a mess. I'm like, yes, I did that. These is cute. Okay. And I'm just playing around with some styles. I love the scrunchie, of course, the basic, and the bun at the top are my favorite two styles. I have not played around with styles that much, but I definitely will, you know, see how cute I can stretch these to look. Thank you so much for watching my tutorial. I really enjoyed recording this and showing you all how to get this look. I hope it helps you in your styling, and I will catch you in the next video.